back to the Quest for Success podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in once again.
Our special guest today, Deepak Narayan, founder and CEO of Practus, a global consulting business. And also he's one of my close mates from Harvard OPM, one of my cohorts. And welcome, Deepak, to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Jam, for that gracious introduction. And it's so good to see you. Always a pleasure talking to you. And we have a special connection. You know that, right?
Absolutely.
The fact that I keep pulling your leg that you're more Indian than Australian. So that's what brings us all together.
Yeah. No, Deepak's been very helpful. Every time I need to have a chat, whether it's a business related or personal, or just want to get some advice, he's always willing to help. And not just for me, he's got a good reputation among my cohorts, and he's the guy to reach out if you need any advice. So Deepak, it's a pleasure to have you on this show. So let's take you through your journey. And
so we have an opening tradition on this podcast where we really want to understand what success means to you in your current phase of life. So I want to start on that note. Deepak, today, what does success mean to you?
So it's a very good question. Thanks, Dylan, for posing this. I think this is a question which in most podcasts and in most conversations, it comes in the end after you've spoken about everything else. I think it's a good way to kind of flip that, right? To me, I think success means how do I impact not just my life and the life of the people that I love the most, but also the people who work with me or the people I end up touching in day-to-day life. As Jam mentioned, the one of the reasons why I kind of like to interact with many people. Everyone calls it networking. For me, I don't think it's about networking. It's really about figuring out what's going on with them. There may be zero commercial interest in interacting with any of these guys. But just figuring out what they're doing, what are the challenges, how do they come out of these challenges, what's going on in their personal life, getting to know them better, and if there is something that you can contribute in any form to them, then I would like to do that. To me, I think the maximum number of people that I can impact. In fact, incidentally, 10 years back, I had this the habit of writing journals, personal journals, and I can show it to you, Jam, when we meet at HBS. It's
Sure.
handwritten. One of the things that I'd written about as to what is the core purpose of my life is to be able to impact 1 million people in some shape or form. Whether I employ them, whether I partner with them, whether I am contributing to them in their personal times of need, in their quest for success, like we are doing today. In some shape or form, and that's something I try and follow as far as I can. So to me, I think personally that's a big motivator to do. I think on the business side, I'm going to just segue into that. For me, on the business side, I think one of the biggest motivations for me is if you look at consulting as an industry, and typically India, where we started this business. Today, I think we are quite global. We've got clients in multi countries, but when we started this, and still, I think consulting is largely driven by multinational firms. So you don't have probably too many Indian consulting firms that can compete globally. So when we start, so I used to work for two large consulting firms before I set up this company. And for me, I think since the day I started this, it's always been about how do I create an impact? How do I make consulting, especially for Indian firms, how do I make them more globally competitive? How do we work with the best in class, whether it is people, whether it is clients, right, and deliver an impact which is significantly better as compared to what is being delivered by other consulting firms around the world, right? So that's, I think, almost like my mission on the business side. And the mission on the personal side is how do I deliver impact, or how do I touch lives of people that I come across.
Yeah, that's excellent. You even have your purpose in your life, quantified number, like with the numbers. You're talking about making a positive impact to million people. That's really, I mean, we are trying to work out our purpose, why we are exist, and but we haven't actually have a number. So your purpose, vision, it's very clear to you, that which is awesome. That's why you're in consulting business, right? And so let's talk about your business practice. Can you please take us through what you do, like what's the business, and you're talking about you're having in multiple countries. Please just give us a understanding to what you do now, Deepak.
Absolutely, Jam. Um, if you look at consulting in general, I think I alluded to it even in your previous question. Consulting in general has been about billing or spending X number of hours on a project, in delivering a project, and then charging a dollar rate per hour to clients. Now, the problem, that's great. I think for a consulting firm, that's a great business model, because effectively you end up billing a client for X number of hours, and you're getting billed by the hour. But imagine this from the client side. Okay, so it's a problem which could be solved, let's say, in 1,000 hours, and you end up doing it in 1,500 hours. What happens? So you're footing the bill for something that you should not be paying for. And at the end of it, are you getting a guarantee, or is there a promise that the consulting firm has been able to deliver impact to your business? Ultimately, if I were to give you a very crude example, right? So both of us are doing the program from OPM Jam. If someone were to say, or if Harvard were to say that you pay me X dollars, and I don't know what this could do in terms of impact to your life and to your business, or you don't have use cases to really tell you
Yep.
that the Harvard program is going to make an impact. Will you even sign up for the Harvard program? So in effect, Harvard is also they are a school, right? But in essence, they are also delivering consulting
Yeah.
to a lot of us who are sitting there. They're telling us how to be better human beings, better citizens, better business owners, or whatever. So we said that how is it possible that when a client is paying you so much, or committing to pay you so much, that you're not able to quantify what's the kind of impact that I'm going to deliver on their business? So which we found as a big gap in the way big consulting firms were kind of operating. And we came up with this model called as the ROI, the return on investment model. If you look at our website, it says ROI by practice. So we have put this out there to say that if I am going to work with you as a service provider, can I commit that your revenues will go up, your profits? I'm able to impact your profits. I'm able to deliver free cash flows for you, or I'm able to improve your enterprise valuation. So we work on only one out of four, or rather, one out of these four parameters have to get impacted for us to say that an ROI has been delivered. I could be doing a transformation project. I could be doing an automation project. I could be doing a post-merger integration. I could be doing whatever you call it, whatever. But it has got to impact one out of these four parameters that I just spoke. If it does not, then we believe we have not delivered an ROI. And this is kind of committed right at the beginning. We don't say that you give me a project, let me figure out, and if there is an impact, great. I mean, you take the benefit. We tell you that, look, allow us to come in, let me do a study or a diagnostic, just like how you do a blood test when you go to a hospital, right, to figure
Yep.
out what's wrong with your health. So we do a diagnostic, and we clearly tell them that if you take these actions, then and if we are able to implement it, this is the kind of financial or monetary impact that we'll be able to generate, right? So that, I think, is a clear differentiator for us. That's what has allowed us to scale in multiple countries, because everyone understands the language of money. Everyone wants growth. Everyone wants improvement in their business. Just like how we want improvement in our lives, people want improvement in their business. So people understand this, and that's allowed us to not just compete in a lot of cases, being able to beat what we call as competition.
And so are you purely a business consultant?
We are purely a business consultant, but very, very operationally involved, Dylan, which means that I wouldn't advise clients just on growth. I would tell them how to grow. So I wouldn't say that go and figure out one of the ways in which you can grow is by getting your customer segment right. I would say, how do you get your customer segment right? What's the 9 yards that you need to put in place in order to get your customer segmentation in place? Similarly, if I've got to improve operations, then there is a clear-cut plan on how our involvement will help them improve efficiency, save costs, automate their operations, right? So there's a very clear path in terms of how we go about helping clients.
Yeah. So you have some actionable steps that to help them actually do what you're trying to implement. I think.
Yeah,
That's
we actually walk with them, right?
Oh,
So
great.
unlike strategy consulting firms who would come in and give out a report, we would not just give the report, but we would implement it.
You help them to execute.
Yeah, execute. So if there is no implementation, then we don't take on that mandate. We need implementation to be a part of our to be a part of the mandate.
Yeah, and Deepak, you mentioned you're in multiple countries. So where are you? Like which part of the world that you're servicing at the moment?
So India is where we started, Jam. We started in India. In India, we are present in 5 cities, and then we have got a presence in the US. Yeah, we've got an office in Atlanta, but our clients and our people are kind of spread across the US. So we service clients across the US. And then we also have a presence in the Middle East, where the Middle East headquarters is Dubai for us. In addition to this, we continue to service, or we have service clients in a few countries in Europe, Asia Pacific, and in Asia Pacific. Right, so that's kind of the geographic dimension for us.
So Deepak, when did you actually started your business practice? You are the founder, right? The practice.
That's right. So I'm one of the founders. We are two of us who started this. Who my co-founder Venkat. He kind of incubated the idea. He started this. I joined him maybe a couple of months after he did that. But because I had to get out of my job, I used to work for a large consulting firm at that point in time. He was the CFO of a Fortune 100 company, and he had come out of that company. But 6 months, 1 year before both of us quit our jobs, we were actually talking about this concept. And then he came out. I served my notice period. I joined him a couple of months later. It's been 17 years since we started this. 2007 is when we started. But between 2007 and 2011, the business model that we were running was very, very different. We were helping companies who wanted to set up operations in India. We were an India entry or a market entry firm. Okay, because India, while I think it's made a lot of progress, it continues to be a country which a lot of people struggle with when it comes to culturally acclimatizing, or even from a business standpoint. I mean, it may all sound rosy and easy, right, on the outside, but you still need someone to work with you as a trusted partner, or as a trusted advisor to get them incubated. So that was the original intent with which we started. And the work that we did was very different from what we do today at Practice. In fact, the name of the company also was very different. The name of the company was Wealth Tree, which means, I mean, the concept was how do we create wealth for our customers. Uh, we have this we have this mythical tree in one of our mythological stories. It's called Kalpa Vruksh. There is no equivalent of a Kalpa Vruksh in English. So a Kalpa Vruksh is a tree where if someone comes and stands under that tree, all your wishes are granted. So we wanted to be that Kalpavriksha for our clients. We said, can we fulfill whatever you need from an India entry standpoint or even from a business standpoint? But by 2008 or early 2009, when the recession kind of hit us, we realized that the number of companies that were coming into India had reduced significantly because budgets were slashed, people were not allowed to expand, right? It was all about consolidation for these companies. And the number of inquiries started coming down. The quality of companies that started coming in was also not that great, and we managed to stay where we were from a pure revenue standpoint. But just the quality of earnings and the fact that we knew that a shock like this could set the business back, because there is no way a company would come to a country for the second time. So our business was just a one-off. So we figured out that there was a problem in the business model itself. And by 2010, 11, because we were representing many multinationals who wanted to come into India, and most of them were looking at Indian owned organizations for partnerships, joint ventures, technical collaboration, subcontracting, a whole host of things. We got talking to a number of these Indian companies. And when we started talking to Indian companies, that's when we figured out that family managed businesses do not have a clear succession plan. The second and third generation were coming into the business. Their ideas were very different from how their dads and their uncles ran the companies. Systems and processes were totally non existent, or they were all broken. Most of these guys were looking at private equity, or they were looking to list their companies. They were looking to expand overseas. I mean, a number of these issues, kind of, or opportunities we saw, and we said, look, is this something that we should be solving for some of these Indian entrepreneurs? And that's how the journey began on in terms of what we are doing today, right? Those were the first seeds that were sown. So we started working with some of these guys, and that moved beyond just the Indian owned businesses to multinationals, private equity, portfolio companies. We got funded by a private equity fund in 2015 ourselves, and we use that money to expand overseas, to acquire talent, to bring in technology into our own business, right? So that's I think since 2015 until 2024, I think that's where I think the maximum amount of growth and expansion has taken place for us. But that period between 2007 and 10 was a changing moment, right? We came out. We have no background of entrepreneurship. My father used to work for someone. My co-founders family, there was no one was running a business, so it was new for us. We came out with dreams. We thought we can crack it. We were not exposed to these family managed businesses, because both of us, when I was in a large consulting firm, all my clients were multinationals. So pretty much I behaved like a non-resident Indian sitting in India, because my exposure was not to Indian clients at all. Right. So it was a bit of a rude shock when we started working with, and that's why we picked in the first place. We said, let's work with overseas companies which want to come into India. But when we were forced to make the change and work with Indian companies, it was a culture shock for me as well, because I had to figure out how to work with these guys, and then it took us maybe 2 or 3 years, because we were personally involved in solving some of their existential problems. We took a few companies to listing. We got them private equity funding. We helped them scale their businesses, and that's what got us the funding in 2015, right? And that's how the journey continues, Jam.
Oh, very nice.
It seems like you have done so much, and you're clearly very knowledgeable in the business space. But I want to take a step back and go back to your early life, and I want to try and understand what are some of the influences that kind of led you to where you are today. So can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your early family life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think thanks Dylan for this. Um, so I was born in, as I said, my father. We were not. I would say we were comfortable in the way we lived. but no lives. I mean, luxuries eluded me until I started my business, and even after a few years in the business, that's when we really started seeing the luxuries. And I could, on a lighter note, I could afford something like an OPM program. You need to earn before you can do a program with Harvard Business School. But a very middle class kind of an upbringing, right? And me and my sister, she actually lives in the US. We both were taught that the virtues of working hard, staying grounded, respecting elders, right? So we come from a very, very high value based family. The family didn't just mean the four of us. That is me, my sister, my parents. It also meant the extended family. For instance, I'm very close to a lot of my cousins and their kids, right? My grandparents, right? So I think those early exposure, or the fact that I was told that family is not just the four of you, but it's probably this extended group of people, really instilled a culture of teamwork, collaboration, give and take. So these things were even a sense of competition. I must say, right? Because sometimes your cousins are probably just 1 year elder to you, younger to you, and some people are good at something, you're not good at something, right? So these things used to keep us going when we were kind of growing up. My parents, unlike a lot of Indian parents, never put any pressure on me. I mean, they never told me that you have to grow up, become a doctor, you have to become an engineer. In fact, by the time I was in grade 8 or grade 9, I had gone back to them and I told them that I would want to become a CPA or a chartered accountant. And I didn't know what it really meant, but it was just my own. I felt that I was probably a little bit better with numbers as compared to cutting up animal bodies or with biology and physics. I think I really sucked at it. I couldn't draw a circle even to save my life. I was that bad at this. So I figured out that let me not go get into an area which I'm really bad at. Just because there is a lot of pressure. A lot of my peers actually ended up doing engineering and becoming doctors, but I took a very different path, and my parents were really supportive about it. I mean, they never told me, no, you should not be doing this. This is something that's not going to be good. Similarly, even when I was growing up, I would like to think I was a bit of a rebel, in the sense I was very independent. I don't remember my neither my mother or my father teaching me, even when I was really, really young. So I used to just do this on my own. I used to hate doing homework, right? And interestingly, I was a class leader, was a class monitor for many, many years. So imagine the class leader not doing the homework, and the teacher never used to check my book. No, so I used to get away with these things, because I used to think, why should you be writing something that was taught in class? I mean, just absorb what is there in class. And that's something I can relate to now, Jam, fully. As in, I'm fully there even when the during the OPM program. I'm fully there when the program is there, because I love learning. But if you ask me to go back and make some rewrite the whole thing again in a way that Harvard wants me to write, I'll still probably not do that, right? So I picked subjects that I liked. I kind of never did my homework. I used to study pretty much at the last minute, and somehow, sometimes the universe just conspires, right? It makes you succeed. So it helped me to succeed in my own way. I think it's a theory which will not work for most people, because it's a blatantly exploitative theory that I have, right? Or in terms of how you could kind of con the system and move forward. Because all the systems in the world, all the education systems in the world requires you to memorize. Everything requires you to know certain things. So I could figure out that as long as I could memorize a few things, I knew a few things, I can actually get away with passing the exams. And I did this till the time I wrote exams. Even my CA exams, I did this way. And I'm not recommending this to any of your viewers. If there are younger viewers who are going to watch this, please don't do this.
But, yeah, but it's very interesting because we talked to quite a few people so far. It's a similar kind of trends, Deepak. We didn't believe the system, right? Like even myself, right? I was a rebel at work.
Correct.
At school. I never believed that system, right? I didn't believe that we have to memorize the books to pass the exam, just the sake of passing the exams, right? But we not saying that we didn't value that education, but we didn't believe the systems, right? So yeah, it's very, we can see many people that done really well now gone through a similar kind of beliefs, when they're very young age. That's probably help you to think really outside the box, right?
Absolutely, I think it's a very good point that you make, Jam. And maybe there is a correlation. Maybe it's a case for somebody to look at, right? Whether there is a connection between entrepreneurs, someone starting a company or a business of their own, and tracing it back to how they grew up, right, when they were young, right? So maybe, I mean, it's a very good point. I've never thought about it that way, but maybe there is a bit of a coincidence because you wanted to change the system, you are unable to change the system. So you said, look, let me actually try and do something that works for me, and yet I'm able to beat the system, right? So that's probably what a lot of us end up doing.
Yeah, but saying that, Deepak, I know you're very hardworking. I know you're saying, well, you go with little thing, but I remember you done so much pre-work before our course, and you done like handwritten notes on every case. So you're well prepared. Before you go into something, you put your time in, right?
So that is my avatar now, Jam, because it's a program that I can see that impacts me as well as my business directly. See, the problem when I was studying is I couldn't figure out what is physics going to do to me, to my life, or what is history going to do to my life. Today, I think the reason why I'm able to do it is because I'm enjoying reading it. Right, I'm able to figure out that by reading this is the impact that I can create in my business, which is why I take that extra effort.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, so that's
yeah.
the change in me. If I think the if I just wish my school and college curriculum was as interesting as what we are reading today, and there was a direct linkage, I would have probably taken a lot more interest.
Yeah, yeah.
So Deepak, you've talked a lot about your early days, but I want to understand, how did you transition into business? What's the
Yeah.
link there?
So I was about 25 and a half when I started this business, or when I joined, right, my co-founder. Um, so I was doing very well in this consulting firm that I was working for. I was due for a promotion. Um, right, I was doing very large clients. I was solving great problems. I mean, I was solving their problems. I had a team to manage, right? I was part of a global initiative that this firm was running. They were changing their entire documentation system, and I was part of that global team that was delivering it. So everything was going well for me. But sometimes, right, again, I think maybe it's the rebel in you, or it is that dissatisfaction somewhere, which said that you're doing all of this, but deep down, what is the impact that I'm delivering for my client? Okay, or is there a better way in which I can deliver an impact for my client? The second thing that came up to me is the fact that the larger the organization, all of us will, maybe you will resonate with this, is that the larger the organization, the more systems, the more boundaries that you have to work within. there is very little risk appetite, or let me say that the risk appetite keeps coming down as the organization keeps becoming bigger. And all of us have experienced this even in our entrepreneurial journey, right? So when we were small, I think we had a lot more freedom to operate for ourselves as well as for our teams. But as we keep getting bigger, we also need those control systems to be put in place. So, which is what happened in that organization, right? Beyond a point, I think the risk management or the controls were kind of stifling me, and it was not allowing me to express who I was. And I felt that probably there was a need for me to come out. And anyway, this whole consulting thing was going on in my mind to say that how do you change the paradigm, or how do you see the way in which consulting firms can deliver better value to clients. Um, and lastly, I think the most important point is I was unmarried, right? So I didn't have any obligations. I didn't have really a family to look after. I was only 25, 26 years old. I said, what the hell, what's going to happen? If I don't make it here, I can always get back to a job, because I'll get a job somewhere, right? So it's okay for me to give up 2, 3 years of my life, just try this out. And then if it doesn't work, I'll go back, right? But that was more about consoling me. When I left the company, I pretty much made up my mind, because my boss actually told me that you're due for a promotion, you're being stupid. This whole startup thing was not such a big craze at that point in time. Imagine 17 years back, it was not as big as what it was. He told me you're doing a mistake. I'll challenge you that in the next few months, or in a year or two, you will come back and join us. Okay, I think that really spurred me on. I said, look, if I forget about proving him wrong, but he's only a representative. This is how most people might be thinking, that he's joining it. It's probably a gig that he's trying to do, but he's going to come back. And I said, I've got to make this work in some form. And that's that. Therefore, when the initial venture for us, the India market entry, did not work, I did not think of going back. I said, let's try and do something to keep this going rather than going back, because that would have been an easy choice for me. And both of us would have got a job at that point in time. We said, no, let's not do it.
Yeah. So any resistance, like your family, because they're non-business people, right? So you studied all many years, got all these qualification, and now start working for multinational companies like global consulting companies. You're doing awesome, and you suddenly decide, well, I want to do my own thing. I want to do something different. And any resistance came from your family, like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, I think as I said, my parents were very supportive. I was unmarried at that time, clearly, but parents were very, very supportive. They've never interfered. In fact, my dad, at least with my mother, I remember that she used to tell me, even when I was growing up, that you got to study. Once in a while she used to say, right? But I don't remember my father saying it to me ever. Maybe it's just his
Wow.
personality. He's a very reserved guy. But maybe it's just his personality, that one was his personality. The second is probably it was his confidence, that he knew that this guy will get through somehow. I don't know what it was. I've never asked him. Maybe I should ask him this question, why he never asked me to study. But both of them did not put pressure on me at all. The only thing that my mother told me, and I still remember this, is see, in India, arranged marriages are very, very common, right? So most people don't get to select their partners. You don't fall in love before you get married, right? You always fall in love after, and that is also debatable whether you fall in love or you're forced to be in that marriage. Only thing my mother told me is, look, you're doing this, you're only 25, 26, you need to get married. People will not give you a girl. Because the community from where we come from, all of us believe in studying. We are that community which studies and then gets into a job and then moves up the chain, right? So she said, you will not get somebody to marry you. And I gave her the assurance that don't worry, if things don't work out, I'll anyway come back. She said, no, if it works, you'll definitely not get someone. If it doesn't work, I know you'll come back and do a job. If it works, you're definitely not going to get a bride. But I'm just thankful to my wife, who I mean, their family, when the alliance came, they never even asked. They never even raised this point about me running a business. So all in all, I think it just worked out. Again, I think the universe just conspired somewhere, right? Someone out there wanted me to pursue this path. It all happened, and so far, no glitches, I would say. I mean, no major glitches. Business glitches keep happening.
Yeah,
Business goes up, down.
that's normal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all normal. But otherwise, it's all gone well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Are you sure you're living in India? Because I mean, nothing. Sorry, not saying anything bad about India, but coming from Sri Lanka, I know similar kind of background, right? So our parents are even now, right, at this age. I still get a lot of advice from my parents. You should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing this, and when you said, well, you have very supportive people. I mean, my parents were supportive, but we have to follow what they think is right for me. So it's a different for you in that case. That probably help you to be more free and do what you love to do, right?
No, I think that's the thing, So sometimes I think we all believe in this power of karma, right? So you are here because you're meant to be here or you're destined to be here. It's not a choice that you've made. You can make a lot of choices in your life today because you know what those choices are. But how do you explain what family you're born into, who your parents are, who you're surrounded with? Right? Probably for all you know, Jam, the reason why we share such a good equation is because maybe there is some past life connection between us. You never know with some of these things. So because I think we try and apply a finite intellect that we have, we think we know everything because science has told us to doubt everything that we see or that we hear. And science has also told that what is not discovered by science doesn't exist. But that is total BS. We all know it, right? Because science has only discovered a small fraction of what the entire of what all of us know, right? So there are things which are beyond your finite intellect or your intelligence,
Yeah.
and that is something you've got to respect. Maybe all the things that are happening to you, you don't even know why they are happening to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you because I experienced similar kind of thing. I even tell everyone our story already written, right? So pretty much destiny is there. Like, sometimes when you connect with someone, like meet someone, you're very suddenly you connect so close, right? Like you don't even know how that happened. Like seems like that I know this guy from somewhere. Very first time you're meeting, but you can relate it to that person so quickly and we connect. So maybe it's something to do with past life or whatever we believe in, but I always believe in our story is already written, and yes, we can change to a certain, but go with the flow. Enjoy every minute.
Absolutely. Stay in the present, enjoy every minute. I've seen you do that, Jam. That's probably one of the reasons why I just love being with you, having conversations with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Do you have children now?
Yeah, I have a daughter. She's 8 years old.
Amazing. I want to get your perspective from the childhood that your parents gave you, being very open and supportive. Are you trying to do something similar for your daughter now?
I think that's a very good question to ask. I'll give you an example, and maybe the viewers who are seeing this or watching this or listening to this may think it's bravado or it's absolute stupidity that what we are trying to do. So, for instance, last year we actually pulled our daughter from school, out of school.
Wow.
So we pulled her out of school because that's based on my own experience that
Yeah.
learning is not the school, not necessarily in the school. You can have many teachers, and those teachers can be anywhere, right? And we said that in order for her to learn from life or from life's experiences, she's got to get exposed to as many things, as many aspects of life, and not just what is being taught in school. So today, I think. The fact that we have pulled her out allows her to do so many things, right from say learning to swim, to skate, to learn music, to learn art, right? And she also studies. Okay, but studies is not everything that she does in a day, which is what I did, and which is what I did not necessarily associate with. So I don't know whether it was subconsciously in my system, but when I spoke about this to my wife Preeta, and I told her that maybe we've got to pull her out of school. I think it took her maybe a couple of years to digest this fact, but then she also came around, figuring out that probably what I was saying is what we should be doing. So, Dylan, to answer your question, yes, I don't know whether it is stupid, whether it is brave, because these things we'll know the impact of these things only after a few years, right? But right now, I think that's where she is.
Yeah. As Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so time will tell. But you're talking so much about learning and getting experiences. I want to know, was there any mentors or advisors that you had along the way who had a really big impact on you?
Okay, very good question. Many mentors, many people whom I really, I wouldn't say looked up to, but people who impacted my life. Obviously, I think one's own parents, they do impact people in one way or the other. But outside of them, I think one of the biggest influences in my life was my grandfather, which is my maternal grandfather. He lived a long life, a healthy life, a full life, as Jam just said. He lived pretty much in the moment. He lived until he was 93, but he
Wow.
was really active till he was 93. He pretty much did everything, right? And even though he was at that age, his mental faculties were absolutely sharp. We used to have conversations around business, around life, around. I mean, you could speak to him on any topic, and he was as modern as a 25-year-old. So he had a significantly big influence on my life. My partner and my co-founder. He also happens to be my cousin brother. In fact, we don't even use the word cousin. I think we call ourselves as brothers because I know him since the time I was born. Right, and for me, when we had to come together, it was a no-brainer because I knew that he had the best interests. He had my best interest in mind, and I knew
Yeah.
that we'll kind of try and pull it all together, right? And he's been a super influencer for me. I think a lot of the initial things that I learned about working as an entrepreneur was all shaped by his thought, his influences. And that was really the grounding for me. Also, I think certain qualities like how do you stay calm under pressure? How do you remain grounded even when success kind of comes to you? I think these are attributes that I would completely associate with him. Right? These are things that I learned from him. And then there have been several people in the last few years whom I've had the opportunity to kind of interact with, and from every single person I've learned. For instance, the ex MD of IBM, I started knowing him 2 years back, but today I think he's a well-wisher, he's a mentor, he's a coach, whatever you may call. We also exchange book ideas. I mean, he tells me, look, why don't you read this book? Why don't you explore this concept a little bit more? We catch up every 2-3 months over a call. We end up meeting, right? So there are multiple people, even at the OPM program, Jam, as I said. Everyone that you come across, you appreciate them for something that they bring. It's a unique trait that they bring in them, right? The fact that you, for example, because you are on this call, and I'm not saying this to kind of please you, you know this. See, the fact that Dylan is energy, right? Even if you put him in a group of 25-year-olds, he'll get along with them. He's got a topic. He can make conversation. So this is something I just love about him. How I wish how I can do that better. with a lot of people who are younger to me. It's very hard. It doesn't come naturally to me, right? But it comes very naturally to him. And he can blend with a 60-year-old. He can blend with a 25-year-old. He can blend with a 40-year-old, right? So he can do that seamlessly. So I think a lot of people have taught me so many things in my life. My coach, I actually got coached by someone 3 or 4 years back. I actually worked with him for about 9 or 10 months. He really shaped the way I started thinking about myself or my business. I think that helped me immensely. So, long story short, I think multiple people who have come into my life, as I said, just like the way I would like to impact people, I also have got impacted by several people in my life.
Yeah. And you said you started your business 17 years ago, and now you're a multinational company. I just want to, I've just started my own business as well. So I want to get your advice. If you were to do it all again and looking back, is there any advice that you would tell yourself when you were just starting out?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good question. I wouldn't want to change anything at all, Dylan, because I think if the moment I start thinking about changing something, at least in my mind, it tells me that I regret a few things.
Yeah.
For sure, if you were to start now, you would have done a few things differently. But do I want to change it? No, because I think those experiences shape me to be the person who I am today. Right. So regardless of the success in the business or whatever has happened on the business, I think on the personal side, it's been I'm a very changed man as compared to what I was 17 years back, and the change I think has happened for the better. So I would not want to change. I would not want to trade this at all for any more business success that I might have got. Right. So that's point number one. Point number two is, see, human beings are a product of the choices that we make. Correct, because choices are the ones that you can absolutely control, or you can control to a large extent. Right. On a day-to-day basis, you are presented with choices whether I should be taking this path in my business or should I be taking an alternative path. Is this decision right for me, not right for me, right? So you're always presented with those choices, and you don't have any control over the consequences. So I think a lot of us end up worrying about the consequence. We think of the consequence and then we design and then we make our choice. In fact, I think we should make the choice and not let the consequences impact us so much. Okay, I think that probably is a huge learning for me, and this is something that I try and implement in my day to day. In fact, I tell my teams that you can only control the controllables. You cannot control what is not controllable. So don't even try to control it. Don't even try to think about what you can't control. Um, so if there is one mantra, this would be that one mantra. Apart from that, I think you got to work hard. I mean, there is no alternative. There is nothing else that I would advocate. If you cannot work hard, you will. I mean, success is not in your hands. You don't know when you will succeed or when you'll start seeing results. But if you do not work hard and you don't make the right choices or you don't make choices, then you're never going to get to the end result or the end outcome. Right. So I think keep doing these two things so that you're able to kind of at least progress in life.
That's a great advice for a young kid like Dylan. And to add to that, Deepak, I would say do something, always do things that make you happy, make you enjoyable, right? So the secret to that, because when you're doing something you really enjoy, you know it's going to be successful. It's no doubts when you're doing it. I mean, what Dylan started, he came up with the idea. I didn't really want to go and influence the idea because, as you said, he got to learn his own way, right? So only way that he learn if he's do it himself and trial and fail and get up again and try again and do things. As parents, if we put our finger and tell him what to do, and he's not gonna learn. He's not gonna learn the same level that he's gonna learn from failing, right? And so even this podcast, happened to, we thought we'll do something make us more like, something that we both love and enjoy, and we can see the excitement and enjoyment that we have, when we're doing it, when we're talking to people like you, because there's so much that we both can learn from each other, right? So
No, it's
yeah,
mutual.
continue to, yeah, it's a mutual benefit, and as you said, we are human, we love connecting with others. Communication is such a powerful thing. When you talk to someone, the learning that you get from somebody, like, listen to your story, that's inspirational, so, and that's why we thought, well, what we are doing, why don't we broadcast to others, so this is part of what we can do, as what we've done, like experienced people, what can we contribute back to the society? People listen to this, hopefully they'll take one or two takeaways from this.
And it goes back to your point on impact,
Yeah.
right? If we can make a podcast, just us sitting and talking, and it can get broadcast to everyone on the internet, then it can go towards your impact of maybe getting to 1 million ears, hopefully. So yeah.
It's an enjoyable thing to do.
One other thing is about when problems actually stare at you, right? If you're running a business, and even in life in general, I think you will come across. I mean, it's never a straight line, right? It kind of goes up, down, whatever. So when comes to you, earlier I always used to think, why is it that this problem is coming at my doorstep, right? Am I so unlucky that all the problems are coming to me, right? But then I started realizing that this is one way of, I mean, whether you are a believer in God or in a force or whatever, this is something that's been thrown at you. It's a challenge that's been thrown at you. Somebody out there wants to try and see if you can really handle it. So rather than saying, why is it coming to me, just accept it. Right, just take it headlong. I mean, take it head on, and try and find a solution. So that's the other mantra that I've kind of followed.
Yeah. And I want to go back to your first point about having impact and trying to have a measurable impact on 1 million people. Other than your business, is there anything else, any other aspects that you're trying to reach that goal?
Absolutely. So one of the aspects is social causes. So I also am associated with an organization called as the Isha Foundation. It is run by a spiritual leader called Sadhguru. You can actually Google him. He is probably one of the most viewed spiritual leader in the world. So I've been with this organization for the last 6 years. So apart from the yoga and the spiritual side, which I practice on a regular basis, um, they are also associated with a number of social causes, whether it's in the field of education, health, soil rejuvenation. Soil as an area, for instance, it is shocking to say that 40% of the world's soil is already desert quality, which means you cannot grow anything on that soil. Right. So, and if this continues, then in the next 80, 100 years, we are talking of a scenario where nobody in the world can grow anything, right? Because that's the amount of damage that we have done, whether it is through chemicals or whether it is through deforestation, right? Which is why the water tables are all going down. We're suddenly seeing water crisis. We are seeing the spread of pandemics and diseases and so many things. And it's all got to do with soil, because fundamentally, whether you are a meat eater, whether you are a plant eater, everything is born out of the soil, right? All of us also, we are born out of the soil, we go back into the soil, right? So soil has got a huge significance. So this was one of the initiatives, for instance, with Isha Foundation, that I work closely with, apart from some of the social causes. And Sadhguru actually went on a bike to spread the awareness about soil. He traveled 40 countries. He covered many thousand miles on a bike just to make people aware. We signed MOUs with governments on soil rejuvenation. So this is again a cause which is very close to me as well, right? But apart from this, as a company, We also sponsor causes. Again, it's around feeding the hungry, educating kids, right? So we have adopted a couple of schools here in back in India, and we kind of support these school children. So that's again on the business side, and again on the personal side, even outside of Isha, I do sponsor the education of a few kids, both kids who are neuro typical, as they call it, as well as kids who are neurodivergent. So these are some of the causes that I kind of support personally.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, Deepak.
So Deepak, believe it or not, we're just about to hit an hour, and it's been a fantastic discussion. But I want to go back to the very first question that I asked you about success, and we talked a lot about impact and you wanting to reach as many people as possible. Right now, looking back on your journey, do you feel successful?
So if somebody had told me 17 years back, before I started this company, that I would be here, doing all the wonderful things that I'm doing, I would have probably taken it. Okay, I would have said, okay, great. I mean, let me take this plunge and go ahead. I think the reason why a lot of us feel disappointed is because as we start becoming more and more successful, our definition of success actually keeps changing.
Yeah.
Right? We think now the definition of success is for me to have $100 million in my bank. Okay, but you have got to go back and see whether that is what got you to become an entrepreneur in the first place. I don't think it was really the money. And I'm not lying here. I'm saying this with full earnestness. I didn't even know how much $100 million was back then. I mean, just as a joke, I didn't even know what that was. But I think our expectations change, which is why I think disappointment set in. When I'm asked this question frequently, quite often, and I always tell them that rewind 17 years back, if someone told me that you would be doing this, you would be here, I would have said, okay, give it to me. I think that way, I think it's been very, very fulfilling in my view. I don't know whether that equates to success, Dylan, but certainly I think for me it's been very, very fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because that's something that we're both finding throughout these discussions is when we interview people at different stages in their life, it almost we hear that success is something which evolves. It's not a finite thing. It's constantly evolving and developing and changing. And I think that's something that we have to constantly keep striving for. And maybe that's all part of it. We'll never actually get there, but it's the pursuit of that success which keeps us fulfilled. And so I'm very glad that you put it that way. But throughout our discussion, I've been taking a few notes about the factors which I think contribute to your success, and I just like to share them with you. So the first one that I got down is you are a very deep learner and a continuous learner. You know, coming into this discussion, I didn't know a lot about you, but I would never have thought that a businessman would know about soil and all these different things. So you have a very, very diverse knowledge and you go very deep. And I think continuous learning keeps the brain active and it is very, very good for you as a person. And the next one is being present. And I haven't actually seen that in many other people, but throughout our discussion, you've talked a lot about being in the moment and not trying to worry about things that you can't change, being present and just trying to do the things that you can do right now. And then the next one is your determination. I think it would have been very easy for you to make different decisions in your life, but as you said, your boss said you'll probably end up back here. But you were determined to make your business successful. And I think that's clearly put you in good stead and has kept your business thriving. And then you touched on it briefly, but making quick decisions. And I think a lot of people can dwell and take too much time to make decisions. It's something that I'm trying to improve on, just making decisions which you know that you can come back from very quickly, and not trying to spend too many resources on them. And so I think those are some of the core things that I've taken away from our discussion, which I think have definitely got you to where you are today.
Yeah, just to add to that list, Deepak, I know you quite well. So one of the things that I know you about is you've been very supportive person. You're always willing to give your time. You're not expecting anything in return. It's more like even you demonstrate that in your business. You're doing your business, not asking, okay, pay me up front for my advice. Let's work together. Let's create a win-win situation for others. So that's also showing in your story. Also knowing you well, you demonstrate that. Yeah. So that's a really, really nice ingredient for your success, I would say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for summing it up. Firstly, Dylan, I think they were very crisp, right? And you kind of summed it up in 4 points, key points. Thank you so much, Jam, for all the kind words. You always have a special place in my life, and you will continue. You will always have that. And thanks for having me on this podcast. I'm truly humbled and honored to be here and to be able to share. And hopefully, whatever we shared or the conversation that we had over the last hour or 75 minutes will be useful for a lot of viewers or listeners here.
Absolutely. And from both of us, thank you so much for giving up your time to
Thank
be
you,
here.
Deepak.
And you mentioned before we started this conversation that you have your own podcast. If our listeners want to find that, where should they go?
So you could find that on Spotify. You could find that on Apple. It's called Wisdom, BISDOM, which is about combining business acumen with wisdom in life, right? So again, freewheeling. We bring in people from different spheres of life, from different walks of life, and they end up sharing their experiences. So I think you could go and catch up on a few of those episodes as well. Probably we also did about 12, 13 in season 1, and we are eagerly waiting to begin season 2.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll put a link to that down in the show notes. And for those listening as well, we've also just released our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com, where you can go and catch up on all our episodes. And also there's a link to our success survey. So we'd love to hear from all our listeners and understand what success means to you. And so it can help guide us, and who knows, maybe get you on the podcast one day. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.